Darth Sidious, also known as Emperor Palpatine, is one of the most cunning and manipulative figures in the galaxy. His dual role as the Supreme Chancellor of the Republic and the Dark Lord of the Sith directing the Separatist movement reveals a grand strategy that transcends traditional notions of political and military maneuvering. It's often suggested that his actions equate to playing 4D chess, not against another opponent but with himself as both sides' mastermind. This unique dynamic provides fertile ground for analyzing his methods, motives, and the unprecedented control he wielded over galactic events. From the outset, Sidious's plan hinged on deception and the exploitation of both individuals and systems. As Chancellor Palpatine, he represented the Republic, presenting himself as a benevolent, democracy-loving politician. In contrast, as Darth Sidious, he manipulated the dark undercurrents of galactic discontent, using figures like Count Dooku and General Grievous to orchestrate chaos. The Clone Wars, far from being a genuine conflict of ideology or territory, were meticulously engineered by Sidious to serve his ultimate goal, the consolidation of absolute power. By controlling both sides, Sidious effectively dictated the pace and scope of the war, ensuring that every twist and turn furthered his hidden agenda. The brilliance of Sidious's strategy lies in how he used this self-created conflict to destabilize the galaxy and eliminate potential threats. The Jedi Order, once the guardians of peace and justice, were stretched thin across countless battlefronts, diminishing their ability to function as a cohesive force. The political machinery of the Republic became a puppet under Sidious's influence, with legislation like the Military Creation Act and emergency powers eroding its democratic foundations. Meanwhile, the Separatists, though appearing to be a genuine counterweight to the Republic, were little more than tools designed to justify militarization and authoritarianism. Sidious's manipulation extended to key figures on both sides. Anakin Skywalker, the Jedi chosen by prophecy, was central to his scheme. By fostering a mentor-student relationship with Anakin as Palpatine, he positioned himself as a trusted confidant. Simultaneously, through the orchestration of tragic events such as the death of Anakin's mother and the Clone Wars' endless carnage, he stoked fear and anger within the young Jedi. Sidious exploited Anakin's personal vulnerabilities, ultimately turning him into Darth Vader, the enforcer of his new regime. On the Separatist side, leaders like Dooku and Grievous were kept in the dark about Sidious's true intentions, serving as pawns whose primary function was to escalate the war until their usefulness ended. A particularly striking element of Sidious's strategy was how he used the war to mask his Sith identity and ambitions. The galaxy at large, and even the Jedi Council, saw Palpatine as a beleaguered leader trying to preserve the Republic during a time of unprecedented turmoil. This perception allowed him to steadily consolidate power, transforming the office of Chancellor into an instrument of dictatorship. The irony is that while the Jedi suspected a Sith Lord was behind the galaxy's troubles, they failed to see that the orchestrator of their demise was operating in plain sight. Sidious's manipulation of the galaxy was not merely tactical but psychological. He understood the fears and desires of entire populations, exploiting them to garner support for his policies. On Coruscant and other core worlds, he played to the fear of separatist aggression, presenting militarization and centralization as necessary for survival. In contrast, he fueled the grievances of the Outer Rim planets, creating the impression that the Republic was an oppressive and uncaring regime. This duality allowed him to sustain the illusion of two opposing factions while maintaining control over both. What makes Sidious's strategy resemble a form of 4D chess is the sheer complexity and foresight involved. He was not merely reacting to events but actively shaping them years, even decades, in advance. The Clone Army is a prime example. Its creation, ordered by a Jedi Master under mysterious circumstances and later co-opted by Sidious, exemplifies his ability to manipulate long-term plans. The Army's secret programming, the infamous Order 66, was a ticking time bomb, ensuring the Jedi's destruction at the precise moment Sidious required. The dynamic between Sidious's two identities also reveals a profound understanding of the galaxy's structural weaknesses. The Republic's reliance on bureaucracy and its susceptibility to corruption made it easy for him to infiltrate and control its systems. Similarly, The Separatists' loose coalition of self-serving leaders and disaffected systems made them malleable to his influence. By exploiting these weaknesses, Sidious turned the galaxy's institutions and factions into instruments of his will. Sidious's ability to play both sides against the middle did not come without risks. By orchestrating such an intricate web of lies and manipulations, he had to maintain absolute secrecy and control. A single misstep, such as the revelation of his dual identity, could have unraveled his entire scheme. However, his skill in maintaining this balance speaks to his unparalleled cunning. Even the most perceptive individuals, including Yoda and Mace Windu, failed to uncover the full extent of his deception until it was too late. Through the Clone Wars, Sidious ensured that the galaxy's focus remained fixed on external threats rather than the internal erosion of freedom and democracy. His manipulation of public perception was masterful, framing his actions as necessary sacrifices for the greater good. By the time the Republic transitioned into the Galactic Empire, the galaxy had been so thoroughly conditioned to accept authoritarian rule that resistance was minimal. At its core, Sidious's strategy was not about winning a conventional war but about engineering a paradigm shift. He envisioned a galaxy reshaped according to Sith ideals, with himself as its undisputed ruler. The Jedi were not merely obstacles to this vision but symbols of the old order he sought to destroy. By pitting them against a manufactured enemy and exploiting their adherence to outdated doctrines, Sidious ensured their downfall. This multi-layered approach, manipulating individuals, institutions, and entire populations, epitomizes Sidious's genius. His ability to juggle these competing elements without losing sight of his ultimate objective underscores why his actions are often likened to 4D chess. Unlike a standard chess game, where two opponents vie for dominance, Sidious orchestrated a scenario where he could never truly lose. Every victory or loss on the battlefield, every political crisis, and every personal tragedy served to advance his agenda, making him both the player and the board. The culmination of Sidious's plan, the execution of Order 66, the declaration of the Galactic Empire, and the subjugation of the galaxy, represents the ultimate checkmate. The Republic and the Separatists, two sides of the same coin, were discarded once their purpose was fulfilled, leaving Sidious to reign supreme. The Jedi, the guardians of the old order, were reduced to scattered remnants, while the galaxy entered an era of Sith domination. By controlling both sides of the conflict, Sidious demonstrated an unprecedented level of strategic acumen. His actions were not merely manipulative but transformative, reshaping the galaxy's political and social landscape in his image. This mastery of deception, foresight, and psychological manipulation ensures his place as one of the most formidable figures in galactic history. The deeper implications of Darth Sidious's actions extend beyond his immediate rise to power. His orchestration of the Clone Wars created a cycle of dependency and despair that cemented the galaxy's submission. By engineering a conflict that seemed unsolvable, he exhausted the will and resources of all involved parties. This manufactured crisis set the stage for him to present himself as the only viable solution, thus ensuring the galaxy's acceptance of his authoritarian rule with minimal resistance. One of the most remarkable aspects of Sidious's scheme was his ability to exploit the natural tendencies of his adversaries. The Jedi Order, despite their wisdom and power, were bound by a rigid code that limited their adaptability. Sidious anticipated their reliance on traditional methods and used it to his advantage. By involving them deeply in the war effort, he pushed them further away from their spiritual roots and closer to being seen as instruments of the Republic's militarism. This perception not only undermined their moral authority but also made it easier for him to paint them as traitors during the final stages of his plan. Similarly, the Separatists, with their disparate goals and mutual distrust, were easily manipulated into self-destruction. Figures like Newt Gunray and the Trade Federation were driven by greed and ambition, making them blind to the larger scheme. Count Dooku, for all his charisma and power, was kept unaware of Sidious's true endgame until it was too late. This deliberate obfuscation ensured that the Separatist leadership remained compliant and that no single individual could challenge Sidious's control. The Clone Wars also served as a proving ground for the tools Sidious would later use to maintain his empire. The clone troopers, bred for obedience and efficiency, were not only instrumental in fighting the war but also in executing Order 66. Their unquestioning loyalty, combined with the strategic placement of Sith influence within their ranks, allowed Sidious to enact the Jedi Purge with surgical precision. This transition from wartime army to enforcers of Imperial rule was seamless, further highlighting Sidious's long-term planning. Moreover, Sidious's use of the war to consolidate economic and industrial power cannot be overlooked. The Republic's dependence on military production and resources from corporate entities like the Techno-Union and the banking clan centralized wealth and power under Imperial control. Once the war ended, these entities were either absorbed or eliminated, ensuring that the Empire inherited their infrastructure without opposition. This economic domination allowed Sidious to maintain control over the galaxy long after the fighting had ceased. Sidious's ability to manipulate both macro-level events and micro-level relationships underscores his unparalleled strategic mind. He understood that control of individuals could have cascading effects on larger systems. This is most evident in his manipulation of Anakin Skywalker. Sidious's interactions with Anakin were carefully calculated to exploit his fears, ambitions, and insecurities. By positioning himself as a mentor and friend, Sidious ensured that Anakin would turn to him in moments of crisis. The transformation of Anakin into Darth Vader was not merely the corruption of a powerful Jedi but a symbolic victory over the Jedi Order itself. The duality of Sidious's role as both Palpatine and the Sith Lord also highlights his mastery of dual narratives. To the galaxy, he was the embodiment of stability and hope, a leader striving to preserve unity in the face of chaos. To his Sith apprentices and agents, he was the architect of destruction, orchestrating events to bring about the Sith's ultimate triumph. This ability to inhabit two opposing personas without contradiction allowed him to manipulate allies and enemies alike with unparalleled efficiency. Despite the seeming perfection of his plan, Sidious's strategy was not without flaws. His overconfidence in his own infallibility and his underestimation of certain variables, such as the resilience of Luke Skywalker and the redemption of Darth Vader, ultimately led to his downfall. However, even this failure underscores the audacity and scale of his vision. Few could have anticipated the intricate interplay of personal loyalty, familial bonds, and the enduring spirit of the Jedi that would ultimately undo him. In hindsight, it is evident that Sidious's manipulation of the Clone Wars was not merely a means to an end but a masterclass in the art of control. His ability to engineer a galaxy-wide conflict, direct its outcomes, and emerge as its sole victor is a testament to his strategic brilliance. By playing both sides against each other, he created a situation where every move, regardless of its immediate result, advanced his ultimate goal. The galaxy's descent into darkness under Sidious's rule serves as a chilling reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and manipulation. His rise was not the result of brute force or overt conquest but of subtlety, deception, and a profound understanding of the human and non-human condition. Sidious's actions during the Clone Wars exemplify the idea of playing 4D chess, where every piece, every move, and every outcome is part of a larger design. In the end, Sidious's legacy is one of unparalleled cunning and ambition. His ability to control both sides of a galactic conflict and use it as a stepping stone to absolute power remains one of the most compelling narratives in galactic history. The true tragedy of his reign is not just the lives lost or the freedom destroyed, but the fact that it was all achieved under the guise of peace and stability. Sidious's genius lay in making the galaxy believe in the illusion he created, even as it crumbled beneath their feet.